SharePoint Server 2016. Thank you all for taking the time to join us on this webinar. We'd like to spend the next 50 odd minutes sharing a few insights into data loss prevention, DLP, some new features, benefits, followed by a brief demo. So as with most webinars, this webinar will be recorded and emailed to all attendees. You're free to post questions by clicking on the question box in the control panel, and we will attempt to address all your queries towards the end of the webinar. Please note that all attendees are in mute throughout the webinar. I would encourage you to send us your feedback through the email address provided below. So before we dive deeper into today's topic, I would like to give you a short summary about Trigent Software. We are a mid-level Microsoft Gold certified software development company based out of Boston, and we have a strong development backbone in India. We have successfully operated for over 20 years with global revenues of over $30 million. We have built technology centers of excellence in SharePoint, Office 365, Yammer, Windows Azure, and mobile. Our journey with Microsoft dates back to early 2000, and over the last decade, we have executed over 100 successful SharePoint enterprise deployments and have an in-house competency of over 100 Microsoft certified consultants. We at Trigent offer an array of services from quick start and planning to design and architecting a SharePoint farm, end-to-end implementation, migration services, and development services both on-premise as well as on the cloud. Today, we continue to support and maintain several large SharePoint installations for several of our customers. So here's a representative list of our customers. The list includes Fortune 100 companies to mid-size and even startups across business verticals, be it independent software vendors, ISVs, and even enterprises in banking and finance, mortgage, credit lending, e-retail, manufacturing, e-learning, and so on and so forth. So that's me on the right. My name is Abhishek, and I am the Manager of Business Development with the Microsoft practice here at Trigent. I have a decade of experience in sales and technology consultant, and my colleague Ravish, who is a Senior SharePoint Architect with Trigent.
Thank you, Abhishek, for the introduction. Let me take it forward from here. Hello, everyone. My name is Ravish Verma, and it's a pleasure to present this webinar on SharePoint 2016, Compliance and Data Loss Prevention. I work as SharePoint Architect. So basically, I have been working on SharePoint since its very existence. And SharePoint 2016 is similar to SharePoint Online in many ways. However, this new 2016 version offers several improvements, especially on data loss and compliance. Let's dive into the webinar, and along the course of this webinar, we'll be seeing demo on data loss prevention and compliance. So the agenda, we are going to talk about today why you would protect data. You need to understand the principle of data security, what that really means. Then I will talk about entities from which we need data security. Then I'll talk about security itself, data security itself. And data security will be discussed in 3 chunks. One will be talking about backend security. Then I will talk about front-end security. And lastly, I will talk about end-user security. Then I will talk about compliance with looking at the cool features and components that combine everything together. And then I will wrap up talking about understanding of data loss prevention. And lastly, how we can implement data loss prevention in SharePoint 2016. So this would be the agenda for today's webinar. So first question comes, why would data protection is required? Why would you want to protect your content? Do you really think your content is that important that you have to protect it? Have you ever really sat down and thought the content that everybody stresses about and realized that it's just a bunch of Word document and Excel spreadsheets? But is it important to your organization? So let's talk about why data protection is required. First thing comes like, is it business critical content? Would your business suffer if your content disappeared? Would you be able to continue working? Is it your intellectual property which is unique to your organization? If it is, then of course you want to protect and you have to protect it. You won't allow everybody else to steal your data and start a new business on the same thing on which you have invested years to build it. Does it contain personal information? Before that, the first question comes in mind. Should you be putting personal information in SharePoint in the first place? But even though if it is placed, does it contain personal information? Does it contain, maybe for an example, your last salary revision? That may be your personal information. Does it contain your credit card information? Is the data required in legislation? Some kind of guidelines, some kind of rules that are part of what you do? Is there some legislation going on and that requires you to have things on hold? So these are kind of some areas that help you understand why we actually protecting the data. So what are we protecting against? Have you ever wondered that? Have you ever sat down and thought why we are spending so much of money to protect content and what are we actually protecting it against? So first thing comes the disappearing content, the magical disappearing content. I believe most of you must have heard from users, it's just gone. But when you really start looking, you will find that the data was moved somewhere else from its original location. We protecting against disappearing content. We need to protect the data which you just talked about, like it's just gone. We know that that's actually an issue between share and the screen. So if someone who knows how to identify the data can go ahead and find out whether the data has been moved from one location to another location. That's where the issue is, but it is disappearing content nonetheless. Then comes the destruction. So destruction of content. Someone physically gets rid of it and deletes the content and says, doesn't know how it's been deleted. Then the third thing comes malware. Each organization somehow do get malware and malware destroy content. Then comes the hardware failure. Hardware failure just destroy content, stops sometimes as a backup gets the failure. So these are the kind of 4 basic things that we kind of protect them from. The disappearing content, the thing just magically deleting themselves, malware that might cause an issue, or maybe some kind of failure. That's really the 4th thing. The sources from where mostly the data loss takes place are given in the slide. The employees, but not all the employees, the bad employees. So we protect from employees. You don't know how, what would happen. You have an employee one day, wakes up, comes to work, had a bad day, decides to steal all your company IP and walks out of the door. Would you ever know about it? So do you have something in place that would stop that? So we protect from our employees, or bad employees who tend to steal the data, because employees tend to be the weakest link. Sometimes third-party vendors somehow manages to get access to the confidential data. It might possible in some situation wherein for some reason, for some business reasons, the access is given to them, and after that the access was not revoked and somehow they get access to the system and they'll steal the data. Then comes the hackers. Hackers are another entities from whom we need to protect the data. And at last, nations. So nations are another entities which try to hack or steal your data for different political reasons. So these are the entities we are protecting from. But realistically, for us as organizations, it's employees who we need to focus more to protect our data. You need to teach them how to avoid social engineering. Teach your employees to understand the process of securing data from external systems. Now I'll talk about data security. So first of all is the content security. So securing content is one of the most important operations in any organization in order to secure content. The first thing we need to understand is understand permission scope or understand permission matrix. SharePoint is extremely good in terms of assigning the permissions at different levels. In SharePoint, we have permissions which can be granted at web application level, site collection level, then at individual site level. When it comes to assign permissions at individual document library or list level, or if you want to assign permissions at item level, SharePoint provides the ability wherein you can assign permission to end users. So it is very much necessary and important to understand the permission matrix which sits with SharePoint. And accordingly, we need to assign the permission levels to different set of users so the restricted access can be followed. In order to securing the content, we have inheritance and broken inheritance. So in SharePoint, we have the structure of web applications, site collections, sites. Within the web applications, we have site collection, which is nothing but just a container. And then underneath, we have sites. Underneath, we have list, document library, list items, folders, and folders within the document libraries. So this is the structure at high level we have. So at the top level, we have SharePoint default groups as owners, members, and visitors. And hopefully, we all know how this works. It is recommended that not to put everyone under the owners group. In most of the situations, I have noticed that power users adding users to owners or members groups and that the content within the site comes at risk. So if the permission is inherited from the root site of the site collection in a subsite, the user gets the same permission level as it was in the root site. But in order to protect the data or securing content, we can break inheritance in SharePoint at any level, be it SharePoint site level or document or list level or item level. We need to understand this in detail, that how permission structure, inheritance, broken inheritance can help us to implement data security. So here comes the question, how do we protect backend data? SharePoint 2016 is almost similar to SharePoint 2013, and hence the principles which were used in SharePoint 2013 for backend data security applies to SharePoint 2016 as well. So when we talk about backend, it's nothing but the database access. And there are many ways to build out SQL Server implementation depending on how secure you want it to be. Some of the things we have done before, for example, we would build separate SQL instance for different types of content that you store. So you all have an instance of SQL for your content, an instance of SQL for what I would classify as class of auxiliary services. For example, workflow services database instance. Then you have administration instance, which stores all of the service applications configurations. So this isolate content because depending on what you want to build, you can build it very securely. You can have isolated instances. You could have the same instances. You can isolate where you store the content. SharePoint will support either way. So when we talk about database access, we actually talk about least privileged account. But a least privileged environment, it's a little harder to build. but once it's done, it's solid. The list privilege is exactly what it says, the limited amount of permission per account. They should be user account and nothing else. Utilize multiple instances, specific ports, port control, apply security policies. These are the few basic points which using which you can actually provide backend data security. For the backend data security, we can also use the database encryption. In database encryption, there are two different options available. One is transparent data encryption and another one is always on encryption. So TDA, that is nothing but the transparent data encryption, is the primary option available for database encryption. The transparent data encryption is just the 5 lines of SQL statement to actually enable it. By doing this, we actually encrypt the data which is on the disk and stored as data in the database. So in order to encrypt a database or content database in SharePoint, you just need to run the given 4 SQL statements and you are done. Apart from encrypting the content in the content database, you can also encrypt the connection between SharePoint and content database. So when SharePoint connects on port 1443 to talk to SQL internally, you can encrypt the connection using SSL and provide the security to database and its content. So that's it. In between, you are done with the connection encryption so that in between it cannot be intercepted. Now I'll give some insight about the front-end data security. So once you have done SQL encryption and once you have done the protocol encryption, that is the connection between the database and the SharePoint, that is nothing but the encryption of communication between SharePoint server and the database server. The next step is to provide security to front-end data. So here comes how we can protect the data in the front end. The first thing comes is site access. Do not grant permissions to individuals just because they need it. You need to get a justification from them why they need permission. Then that's the first aspect, and the second aspect is before letting any content go inside SharePoint, you need to inspect the content or put some rules or use block file types feature which is available in SharePoint natively. Do not allow users to upload any executable file which may lead to the data loss. Also make sure that you have limited access to the content in SharePoint. For end user data security, we have the following options available. We can make use of the information rights management policies. Then we can configure rights management service and apply those services and policies as document library level. SharePoint 2016 provides the option to configure information rights management server through central administration side. Then we have Azure information protection. If you are dealing with hybrid SharePoint system, then we have DLP, that is nothing but the data loss prevention method, which is the default feature in SharePoint 2016. I will now talk about the compliance. So let's see how compliance is enabled in SharePoint 2016, and we'll see, try to understand its core features and components. So first of all, we should be using content types. Content types are basically used to do a classification of data, which is a very cool feature in SharePoint. Then we have sites, then we have search, then we have the data loss prevention engine that is built in, and then we have data loss prevention policies. So when we talk about compliance in SharePoint 2016 on premises, we will talk about definition of content. We'll talk about structuring of data using content type. and then site, and then we'll talk about search. The content should be indexable and can be used in SharePoint search and then in the DLP process. So let's understand data loss prevention. So first thing is you have the content. You have either created the content or changed the content. Then the search crawl goes ahead and looks for that changed content. This is the key of data loss prevention. So data loss prevention is tightly coupled with search, and it is based around search. So that means it's not real time. Unless and until your content is not indexed, it's not crawled, data loss prevention DLP features will not work. So the search index needs to get updated, and then only the content will be subjected to data loss prevention policies. The DLP policy query then runs based on the rules and the definition you have applied. Then the DLP policy action is then applied to that file. So let's say you do upload a file that has credit card information or social security number. Until it's been crawled and indexed and the query and the policy actions applied, nothing will change. The DLP will not be enforced. It will just sit there as a file. Now take a look, how does the data loss prevention policy works? You choose a location to apply the data loss prevention policy. So you apply them as, at a site collection level or where else you want to put it. We then define the condition. The condition could be underneath the instances of maybe different templates available in SharePoint 2016. Using that, maybe for example, if I talk about US BIA data, UK financial data, US financial data, and then the action is applied, which will be what you want to do. Maybe like block access to file, or you just want to restrict it, or you want to apply some policy. So this is how data loss prevention policy works. You need to find out the location, upload the file, put some conditions, and then perform some actions on that. In on-premises SharePoint 2016 server, we have a subset of policies. If you are using Office 365, there is even more policies. The on-premises one doesn't have as many as Office 365. It's a subset of this. So on-premises, we have these subset, and this is the complete list what you can get on on-premises 2016. However, in 365, Office 365, you have lots of policies based on geographies. So the different policies which is available, you can see on the slide. That is, one is US Personally Identifier Information. We call it as US PII data. Then US Gramm-Leach-Bailey Act. PCI Data Security Standards, that is PCI DSS. Then we have UK financial data. Then we have US financial data. Then we have UK Personally Identifiable Data, that is UK PII data. Then we have UK Data Protection Act. Then we have UK Privacy and Electronic Communications Regulations. Then we have US State Social Security Number Confidentiality Laws. And then we have the US State Breach Notification Laws. So only these many templates will be available as far as SharePoint 2016 on-premises server is concerned. So how do we implement data loss protection? So this is actually really straightforward. But for this, you need to have, first of all, SharePoint 2016. Then the next step is you implement SharePoint Search. Then you need to define the content source. This is also necessary to make search work. And then enable crawling of the content, and then create an eDiscovery Center site using the Enterprise eDiscovery Site template so that we can utilize eDiscovery. Then create a Compliance Center, which is a new feature in SharePoint 2016, and then define any DLP queries that you wish to use, and lastly define DLP policies. So we have seen so far like how we can actually protect the data with respect to the backend data security, then the front-end data security, and then the user's point of view, the data security. We also talked about we need to educate our employees so that the data security can be implemented. But SharePoint Server 2016 comes up with a feature called data loss prevention and compliance. So we saw how the DLP can be implemented, how the DLP policies work, and how this DLP query things work. So let's get into the demo of DLP and compliance demo. So in the demo, what we'll be saying, first of all, we'll see that some of the documents which have been uploaded in a particular site collection and has some information related to the maybe personal information that may contain social security number or credit card information. And we once we'll apply the DLP query, we can see the live data report in front of us. And also we can then define the DLP policies using those templates. And once those DLP policies has been defined, we can actually assign those DLP policies to a particular site collection, wherein if any point of time, if any document is uploaded which contains those sensitive data, those personal data matching with those templates, will be either blocked or restricted or notified to the users who will be taking care of the compliance stuff in the system. So I'll just shift to the demo part. So here we have the SharePoint 2016 server installed, and you can see here that we have the central administration site open. I had talked about the information rights management as well. So first of all, I'll just try to give a brief of that, how we can actually configure that. So we need to go to the security in the central administration site, and under the information policy section, we have configure information rights management, and then we have the configure information management policy. So if I'll click on the configure information rights management, we have some options which we can exercise. So either we can say if we are not using any IRM server, so that option will be selected by default. But if you have configured the RMS server in Active Directory, then you can select the second option. Or if you want to use any server which is dedicatedly, the role has been defined for the RMS server, then you can select this information. Once this configuration is done, then under the configuration management, information management policy, we have different types of policy configurations, maybe be it be a label, barcode, auditing, or retention. So labels, what it will do, it will actually generate some kind of label to the in the documents which will be uploaded to a particular site collection. In that site collection, if the level is implemented, then the users will not be able to copy the content or maybe download the content and stuff like that. So through this, we can actually protect the data. This is information management or information rights management is actually part of the Office. And if you have used Office Outlook, then you will see that you can get some options there, and you can actually protect restrict the users to copy it or download it or and stuff like that. So this is the one option. Using the information management rights and information management policy, we can actually implement the data loss prevention also. Then the second thing comes is the e-discovery site templates and the compliance center. So if I'll go ahead and create click on the create site collection, and underneath, if I'll go into the enterprise tab, we have e-discovery centers, and this is the another one is the compliance policy center. Compliance policy center site template is the new site template which has been included into SharePoint 2016 server. So for this demo, I have already created two different site collections, e-discovery site collection and the compliance compliance center site collection. So e-discovery site collection is nothing but a kind of team site. And the new thing which has been introduced in this is this create DLP queries. Either you can click on this button or you have in the left navigation data loss prevention queries. So what I'll do, I'll go ahead and create a DLP query. What this query will do, this query is actually a live action. So suppose in your SharePoint form, in any of the site collection, if within that site collection, in any of the document library or list, if the sensitive information, maybe USPI data, UK financial data, US financial data has been uploaded, that will be scanned by this query and it will give a report to you that where all those things are available. So I'll go ahead and click on the new item. As I talked about in my slides, that few of the templates available in SharePoint Server 2016. So one is like US personally identifiable information, the data, that is nothing but the USPI data, and several others are available. So as soon as you will select any one of them, you will get the description right below it in the in this about this template section. So here one is this. I am selecting the USPI data template for this demo. And in this demo, you can see here this talks about protect this information. So you can have this US, UK passport numbers, US individual taxpayer identification number, maybe US social security number. So as soon as I will upload or upload the document which has these type of information, that will be displayed in the report. And then in this box you can see it actually talks about the numbers. So what does this signify? It actually says it's any of the file or document. It actually talks about the occurrence. So in that occurrence, maybe a social security number may have appeared 9 times, or US UK passport number have appeared 9 times, or any of the given information template over here. If that appears in the document, that will be scanned. So for the time being, I'll say that okay, fine, if even if a single occurrence of any of the information is here, then it needs to scan it and give me a report out of it. So I'll go ahead and click on next. Once I clicked on next, you can see it gives me a query window. In this query window, you can see I have this query generated by the system, and after each type of template, like for US individual taxpayer identification number, it actually pipes with 1. So since I had given in that text box number 1 in the value as 1, so it's piping with that number, and it will actually go ahead and scan the documents which has actually at least one occurrence of US individual taxpayer identification number, or or maybe US social security number, or maybe UK passport number or US passport number. Then we have the start date and end date. We can actually scan the data or the files which have been uploaded within a particular period. I can give a particular assign a date for the start date. Okay, fine. You can go for the 20th April, and then I can set for another date also like this. So this actually defines the period from which, if you want in that period, if you want to check whether those files which have been uploaded into the system has that data or not. Then comes here the author sender. Maybe you can send the email to the users who have actually created those data, or maybe you can assign a person in your organization who will be taking care of all this information, maybe who has violated, and they can go there, go and talk to those persons and tell them, okay, fine, in the file which you have uploaded contains some information which should not be there into the system. Then we have the sources. We can actually modify the query scope. So from where it needs to go and scan the data. So I'll click on this modify query scope. Here you can see it gives us two options. One is search in everything in SharePoint, and then we have the select sources. So I'm not bothered about searching everything in SharePoint at this point of time. So I'll go ahead and select the second option. And in the second option, it says that the e-discovery set filters are not applied when selecting individual sources. So those filters which I'll be giving based on the date or anything, that will be not applied. I have already selected, used this particular site collection for me, and that's why it is displayed here. But if at any point of time, if I want to add another location, so this is the button which I need to click. If I click on this, it will actually give me a text box. I just need to type in the URL of the site and it will understand. So I'll go ahead and select the webinar, which is the site collection for me, where the data is uploaded, which has some file which contains the social security number or credit card numbers. I'll go ahead and click OK. And now you see that I have given the source here. It is giving, and now I need to click on the search button. Once I click the search button, it actually scanned the files which has those information, and you can see here in the file or the document which has the title called business information, contains either the ITIN, the US individual taxpayer identification number, or maybe USPI data, or maybe US UK passport number or SSN number. The other is like other document also may contain some of those information. So this has given me a ready-made report in front of me, and it has given me that who has actually uploaded that information and when it was last modified. Once this is done, at any point of time, if I want to say, for example, save it for my future use, and next time when I come to this location and I want to run the same report again, so I did not to configure it once more, I can simply just go ahead and run this query, and the information will be available to me. Or else I can export it. What it will do, it will actually okay, it's asking for me to give a name because name is a mandatory field. So I'll say DLP action demo, and here I'll go ahead and click on export. Once I'll click on the export, then it will give me another interface wherein I can actually update the statistics. I can include the version for SharePoint documents. If any document has a different number of versions, so that also it will scan up, and then include the items that are encrypted or have an unrecognized format. And then I'll go ahead and update the statistics. So it will update. Since there's nothing like that, so I'm not getting any change in these two column values. And I'll click on OK, and then it will give me an interface from where I can actually download the results or download the reports. So this is how actually you can create the data loss prevention queries. So as I have talked about before also, DLP queries are live actions. You can actually run it at any point of time. But having said that, I have said that DLP is tightly coupled with search. So unless and until your content is not indexed, DLP query will not be able to scan it up. And that will be sitting in any other location as a simple file. And it won't give you any information related to like when if it contains any of the file contains social security number or maybe any other templates which you are selecting. Now this was about the creating the DLP query. Now let's talk about the compliance. So in the compliance, what we do, we actually define the policies, and we actually set the story for the files or documents which will be uploaded into the system. And if any of the templates data is met with the information which is there in the file, that will be either blocked or that will be either restricted based on the configuration you have done while defining the DLP policy. So let's take a look the DLP policy management. So we have this DLP policy. Under DLP policy section, we have DLP policy management. If I'll click on this, I'll have an interface where I can create a new DLP policy. So I'll click on the new item. And this is nothing but the same as the creating the DLP query. But here you can see a difference that it says that send an incident report to these people who when new content is saved or edited. And then the other option is like notify the user with the policy tip when document that contains sensitive information are saved or edited. And then you can block the access to that content. And at the same time, you can also override also. I'll come to this part later. So let's first start with the mandatory fields. So I'll say for example, I'm again selecting UK financial data. And once I have selected the UK financial data, I'll give that UK data loss prevention. So you can give it any name. And after selecting the UK financial data, you can see that it talks about it protects this information: credit card number, EU debit card number, SWIFT code number. In any of the file, if any of these these information will be available, that will come under the compliance policy which I'm creating. Again, the same text box which actually talks about a number of times the occurrence of the credit card number. It is there, then it will come under that policy. Otherwise, it will not. So I'm going to change it from 9 to say, for example, 3. Let's say for 2, and I'll give an email ID here wherein I need a report. Once I need a report at any point of time when a new content is saved or edited, which has those information, and then I'll select this checkbox saying that notify the user with a policy tip when document that contains sensitive information are saved or edited. The meaning of it, even if you are uploading a document which contains the information like credit card number or SWIFT code and things like that, it will actually give me an information in the document panel itself saying that it does contain some sensitive information, and there is a policy enforced on this, and you need to actually override it, or you can actually change the policy. But to change the policy, you need to have the proper permission level. Maybe you need to have the site administrator, site collection administrators, or maybe content owners, or maybe the edit permission into that site, and you will be able to override the permission. And also, if I'll go ahead and check this box, block access to the content, so the file will be blocked and users will not be able to access that. So I'll go ahead and save it. Once this policy is saved, so after defining this policy, we need to assign it to a particular site collection, or I would say we need to assign it to a location where this policy should be enforced. So here we have the link for this DLP policy assignments for site collections, and I will go ahead and create a new item for this. In this interface, you can see it talks about the site collection which we need to actually enforce this policy. So we have first choose a site collection. Again, I will go ahead and give my site collection title, so it will be able to search and give me the that information. I can go ahead and select this one. Once I have saved this, so what I'm trying to do here is I'm actually assigning the policy which I have already defined in the DLP policy management. And in order to assign it, first of all, I need to have a location where I can assign it. And after having that location, I need to assign the policy which I have defined in that location. So this selecting the location I have already done, but at the same time I have to do the manage assign policy. So I should be able to assign that policy to that location. So I had created this several others before, and this is the one which I have created, UK data loss prevention. and which says that helps detect the presence of information which contains the United Kingdom credit card account information and things like that. I'll go ahead and save it. Now, after saving this, you can see that we have this information available, that there's a site collection, the title is this, and at this location, and there are some policies which has been assigned. So for each site collection, we need to assign a separate policy, even if it is for the same template for the DLP or the compliance. And once that is done, I'll go ahead and save it, and it's saved. Now, I have actually enforced that policy, but even after enforcing that policy, if I'll go to the site collection where I have uploaded some of the information which we were able to see while running the DLP query, you won't be able to see that enforcement immediately. So I'll go into the compliance document library which I have created, and in that I have uploaded some of the files which contains maybe the credit card number, social security numbers, and the other personal information related stuff. So all these files, once that policy will be enforced, will have the blocked icon associated with the file icon. And if you will mouse over on the file, so it will give you an information also that these files have some policy enforced, and that needs to be overridden if you want to modify or edit it. Otherwise, users will not be able to access it. Again, I will repeat it that in order to override that, users need to have the edit permission. Maybe they should have the either site collection admins, or they may be the content owner, or the edit permission in the site. But it's not enforced immediately, as I talked about. It's not instant. So I need to go ahead and click on find out which all things are responsible to enforce the data loss compliance policy into the site collection wherever I have applied that policy. So actually, for the compliance policies, there are 4 timer jobs which is responsible to enforce them. And here, if you can see, if I'll scroll down a little bit down, we have here compliance DR processing, compliance DR task housekeeping, and compliance high priority policy processing. So since I have 2 web applications in this, and for the 2 web applications, I have created those policies. So I can see 8 timer jobs are running. So in order to have those compliance enforced, you need to run these timer jobs, but the default time is that like after 24 hours, those policies will be enforced in the location where you have applied the compliance policies. So this is all I have for the demo, and let's go back to the slide. So let's understand the key takeaways. So in order to do the data loss prevention, we need to understand the correct permission level identification. We need to understand the permission matrix in SharePoint, how we can actually break the inheritance and apply the correct level of permission, and how we can have the inheritance so that we can give the correct level of permission to the end users. Then we need to implement the list privilege. So we should have the accounts which have, we should always prefer to give the list permission level. Then we have this database encryption and communication protocol encryption, and that is basically for the backend database. So we can actually encrypt the data, even though if the database backup or something like that is there, they will not be able to restore it back unless otherwise it is decrypted. and then the communication protocol encryption. So the connection between the SharePoint and the SQL Server, that communication should be encrypted using the secure socket layer SSL. Then we should use the information rights management policies. Enforcement, we can actually configure a server for the information rights management, and then we can assign it, configure it through SharePoint Central Administration side and make use of it. Then we have this content crawling and search role in data loss prevention. You need to have the search running in the farm so that the data loss prevention feature can be used. And then we need to define the DLP policies and the queries. Using the queries, we can get the live data, which is actually have some sensitive information, and we can assign the DLP policies so that in future, if any of the document or any of the file will be uploaded and which contains the information, that can be blocked for the further access.
So thanks, Ravish. We would now like to step back and request attendees to pose questions. Please use the tool in the control box marked question box to do so. Okay, so we seem to have got our first question. What is the size of the file SharePoint can scan for compliance? Ravish?
In SharePoint 2016, we can actually upload file till 10 GB, and that will be indexable, searchable. So in order to have that DLP, data loss prevention feature enabled, that should work with 10 GB file size of data.
Okay. Okay, here's another one, Ravish. Is search service required for DLP and compliance in SharePoint 2016?
As I have talked about in my slides also, that DLP is tightly coupled with SharePoint search engine. So you won't be able to have those DLP policies enforced, or the DLP, you cannot run the DLP queries unless and until you have the search service application configured in your farm. The content which is being uploaded into the system must be indexed, and then the DLP engine will be able to work on that, and we can get the report out of it, or we can get the policy enforced on those files.
Okay, so here's another one. Are templates available to download from other countries? Can you create your own custom templates?
See, as far as SharePoint 2016 server is concerned, so the set of the templates which all are there, that's it. You cannot download it. And the second part of the question was can you create your own custom templates? So this also is kind of restricted as of now. You cannot create. So that's the subset available. Using that only we can do it. Having said that, in Office 365, we have several other templates available, and those are based on geographies, and that can be that can be used. But as in SharePoint 2016, what is available, we cannot customize it, we cannot download it, we can't do anything with that.
Okay, so here's another one. I think Ravish, you already answered this, but anyways, do we need a separate server for information rights management?
Yeah, we have seen in central administration configuration under the security tab, security section, and under the information rights management, information rights management. So there we had the options like either we can configure one of the Active Directory in that only we can embed it RMS servers, or we can have a server dedicated role for that, and we can make use of that.
Okay, so there's another question. While selecting data policies, there is a 9-digit number. What does this denote?
Okay, this is so when we select a particular template, so it talks about what kind of information it contains. Maybe a US, maybe a UK credit card number or US credit card number. So say for example, you have a document called a.docs. In that a.docs, if at least one occurrence of is there for the US credit card number, then that particular file will be scanned for the DLP. Similarly, that 9 signifies that if 9 times, if any of that information is has occurred, then it will be scanned for the policy. Otherwise, it will not. So, say in a document you have 9 different credit card numbers, but you have set it for 10. Then though that file will be script for the scanning. It will scan only those files which has more than 10 occurrence of credit card numbers. Otherwise it will not. So that's why it is editable. You can have 9, 8 or any number of digit, you can put it there so that it can scan the document.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question, Ravish. So it says, what if I restore an older version of a document which actually has violated content? Would compliance engines still be able to figure this out?
Okay, so even if they now suppose the first time when you uploaded a document and that had some violations, or that contains some sensitive information, and the versioning is enabled in that, then in that case it will scan it. And after that, what you did, you actually overridden it, and you changed that information in that and saved it up. Now second user comes who has again the edit permission, and what they did is they again edited and put some sensitive information in that. So what will happen? And saved it. So the previous version has already overridden permissions, like the corrected one, and so that's why that information will not be there, and the system, the DLP engine, will not scan it for that. So whenever in any of the document, if that information will be there, some sensitive information will be there, it will scan. Otherwise, it will leave it as it is.
Okay, we'll take this final one. Can we create custom DLP policy templates?
I think we have already answered it, but in SharePoint 2016, you cannot have that custom templates created.
Okay, so I guess that's about the time we have today. So we hope this session was a true eye-opener. We look forward to your continued support and hope to see all of you very soon in our next webinar. Meanwhile, feel free to reach out to us with questions, share your thoughts and suggestions on topics you wish to gain further insights into. Thank you again and have a great day and a week ahead. Bye.
Bye-bye.